Hello and welcome back to another video on the channel. I'm Dan CableGuy, and today we're looking at a final review of my completed RWA Creations Tie Pilot helmet. Let's have a look at the photos. Let's remind ourselves of the process. This started as a simple ABS kit. After the basic trimming was done, I started to assemble the helmet. As this was my first Tie Pilot build, I used the RWA Creations video tutorials as well as reference photos, most of which came from the excellent StarWarsHelmets.com. This huge cutout in the faceplate has big significance when it comes to original trilogy Tie Pilots. Stick around till the end of the video where I explain it in more detail. As somebody who builds a lot of Stormtroopers, it was really nice to see this Tie Pilot helmet come together. To match the specific hero helmet, I printed out a paint template using a Cricut machine. You can now see that painted over with the metallic silver paint. Of course, when you peel off that template, you're now left with the writing or detailing on the mohawk. These next few photos show the helmet in a completed state, but before any weathering was applied. These next few short videos show a couple of techniques I was using to add weathering to the helmet, especially over the metallic silver paint. This included using a simple metal file to create deeper and more significant scratches, and also a sanding block to create more general light scratches. Let's take a deeper look at some of the construction techniques that bring this closer to the original screen-used original trilogy helmets. So one of the first things is the way that this dome, the top area, is cut out here. So when you actually get the kit, this area is much thicker, so it could cover the whole gap. You could easily cover up that gap to make it look, shall we say, perfect or idealized. But when you look at the original screen-used helmets, they do have this out and then back in again style. Again, with the lighting here, if you've ever tried to film or photograph a Tie Pilot, you'll realise it's never that easy because it's a black object. It's hard to get the details. But hopefully with the lighting, you'll see you've got that big cutout, and then this area along the front is very, very thin. It's a very thin piece of plastic, and then it gradually curves into this area here. So that does mean you've got this very large gap. Now, as I mentioned in a different video, this is actually the place where on the ATAT drivers, this is where they put those accessories. They tuck them up into here. So that does show or does verify that you have these big gaps on original trilogy helmets. The next area is having this big cutout in the faceplate. So you'll see on screen now a separate picture of the faceplate where I've cut out a large section, basically like a rectangular section. And then when you look at the helmet in detail, you'll see that it's got that cutout here, which is where the greeblies are mounted into. They're mounted onto a separate piece of ABS that's mounted behind the faceplate. So that, as I say, the big cutout gives you more detail to the helmet, just like the originals, and that gives it a bit of extra depth as well, actually. Just gives it a nice appearance when you look at it, gives it more to look at, more detailing. In terms of the greeblies, these are actually some slightly more detailed ones. They're only from a UK car parts specialist, but they are one of the more accurate ones available. So I replaced these on the kit and added these to the helmet. They literally cost about £3 or less, so they are very, very cheap to do. And again, another real key area that I went for with this replica is, if you look at the original, the greeblies are mounted under the Trident. So that's exactly what I've done with mine. The greeblies are mounted under the Trident, not in front of it. And I don't think so far, I don't think I've seen any other replica helmet with that feature. If I have, please feel free to drop it in the comments, no problem. But most of them I see, the greeblies are just mounted in front of the Trident. So that is another feature I wanted to get on this helmet. In terms of painting, this is Rover gunmetal, so it's got a really nice texture to it in the flesh, difficult to pick up on photos, but it's not just a flat finish, it is a metallic, and it comes out really nicely on the helmet. With things like the teeth, there's been some debate on this in the past, but I believe everyone now agrees, or most people agree, that the paint on the teeth is only actually on the teeth area. It's not in the dips. The dips on a Stormtrooper is where you'd have the holes cut out. On a TIE Pilot, they're not cut out. But as I say, the paint is only on the raised teeth areas. And then obviously with this helmet as well, I've gone for a weathered look. So again, not sure how the lighting will pick up, but you've probably seen in the photos as well that the gunmetal finish is weathered. So again, it looks like it's been used sort of on set, thrown about a bit, probably by stunt actors and things like that. So the other thing that I upgraded was the decals, the Imperial Cog logo. So these ones are essentially a black round circle with the silver on top, and that's how the originals were. So this one here, as I say, the whole thing is a label rather than just having a sticker of the silver part. It's a black sticker with silver print on it, and that's then put onto the helmet and again weathered to match the helmet. If you look under the helmet, the trim is also slit, which again appears to be how at least some, maybe not all, because of course we don't have photos of all of them, but the helmets have the split to allow you to move the angle of that rubber trim. So again, I've gone for that just to add a little bit more detail. And the internal padding on this is just the traditional sort of foam star. So again, very, very simple. Another small tweak that I did was reducing the thickness of this side part of the Trident. So when the kit comes originally, it's a bit thicker, maybe about 4 or 5 millimeters thicker this way. So I reduced that down in size to be a little bit closer to the original screen use helmets. Hopefully all of these little details come together to bring a slightly more screen accurate appearance to the helmet, especially when you add the weathering to it. As always, weathering is quite hard to capture on camera, but in the flesh it does look like it's been used. Looks a bit like some of the reference photos you would see of the actual screen used helmets. There we have it. That's how we got to where we are now with a completed TIE Pilot helmet. This was my first build, so I used a lot of resources, including reference photos of course, but also the build tutorials from Ross at RWA. As it's an RWA kit, it was quite handy to see how he put the kit together. After that, you may have seen in the photos that I went above and beyond with a few areas, tweaked a few things to make them just that little bit more screen accurate, and then of course went into the weathering side of things as well. So this has that real A&H gritty, dirty sort of appearance to it. Shiny things are great, but I prefer my props to be a little bit more worn, as if they were actually out in battle. So I really hope you've enjoyed the video series. Any questions, do feel free to drop them in the comments. I'd really appreciate any feedback if you have it. Otherwise, for me, that's it for this video. As I say, that's the RWA Creations Tie Pilot kit, and well, this is what we got. It's a beauty. See you in the next video.